When can we expect Melly to come home?
May.
2 words, Melly coming. That's all Jamie Demons King posted on Instagram on April 15th, 2026. YNW Melly's mother. No date attached, no legal document, no statement from the defense team. Just those 2 words, and the entire rap world lost its mind. Before you run with the headline, let's slow this down, because understanding why a mother posting 2 words on Instagram could move the internet that hard requires understanding everything that came before that post. Jamal Demons has been sitting in a Broward County jail cell since February 13th, 2019. Over 7 years, no conviction, no sentence. Just held while his case has been delayed, appealed, retried, and delayed again. His retrial is currently scheduled for January 2027, nearly 8 full years after his arrest. That is the backdrop. That is why those 2 words hit different. Now here's the case itself. On October 26, 2018, in Miramar, Florida, 2 members of the YNW collective were shot and killed. Anthony Williams, known as YNW Sack Chaser, was 21. Christopher Thomas Jr., known as YNW Juvie, was 19. Both were Melly's close friends, his brothers, his collaborators, the people he built with. 4 people were in the vehicle that night. Melly, Cortland Henry, known as YNW Bortland, who was driving, Suckshosser in the front passenger seat, and Juvie in the rear. 8 shots were fired from a .40 caliber handgun. Both victims were hit multiple times in the head and torso. Bortland drove them to Memorial Hospital Miramar and told police it was a drive-by shooting. An unknown vehicle had opened fire while they were on the road. Detectives didn't buy it. They shut down the entire supposed crime scene area and walked it shoulder to shoulder. No shell casings, no broken glass. Nothing that supported the drive-by story at the location Bortland described. Because here's what the forensic evidence actually showed. All 8 shots originated from inside the vehicle, specifically from the left rear area where Melly was seated. One of the victims showed stippling, which are gunpowder burns on the skin that only occur when a firearm is discharged at extremely close range. In a drive-by, that kind of proximity between the muzzle and the victim's skin is physically impossible. A spent shell casing was also found bagged inside the Jeep, suggesting a cleanup had already been attempted. And then there were the messages. Hours after the shooting, Melly allegedly replied to an Instagram DM asking how he was holding up with the words, "I did that." On February 13th, 2019, both Melly and Bortland were arrested on 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder each. Melly was 19. Prosecutors originally sought the death penalty. The first trial finally came in June 2023, almost 5 years after the arrest. Weeks of testimony, forensic experts, ballistics. The jury came back hung, reportedly splitting roughly 9-3 in favor of conviction on lesser manslaughter charges. Mistrial declared July 22, 2023. Melly had survived the first round, but he was still behind bars, and the retrial kept getting pushed. Evidence disputes, defense motions, prosecution appeals. By August 2025, the retrial had been pushed all the way to January 2027. Then September 9th, 2025 changed the landscape. One day before Bortland's own trial was set to begin, he took a deal. This was a man who had held firm for over 6 years while facing the same charges as Melly. Then, staring down 4 consecutive life sentences, 4 lifetimes in a Florida prison, he folded. The deal. Bortland pleaded no contest to 2 counts of accessory after the fact of first-degree murder, plus 2 related witness tampering charges from a 2023 investigation. The state dropped the murder charges entirely. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, followed by 6 years of probation, with credit for the roughly 2,400 days he had already served. The effective remaining time was around 3.5 years, but buried in that deal was the part that matters most for Melly's future. A proffer. Bortland agreed to sit down with prosecutors and provide a detailed, truthful account of everything he knew about what happened that night. As the driver, the only other person in that vehicle when the shots were fired, Bortland is the most critical potential witness in this entire case. And because his case is now fully resolved with double jeopardy attached, he can no longer invoke the Fifth Amendment. If subpoenaed for Melly's retrial, he cannot stay silent. He has to answer. Before the plea, Bortland could sit on that witness stand and say nothing. That wall no longer exists. The plea also tells its own story independent of anything Bortland says out loud. When you plead guilty to accessory after the fact to murder, you are by definition acknowledging that a murder occurred and that you assisted someone connected to it. That's not a neutral act. It corroborates the prosecution's central claim before Bortland opens his mouth. Melly's legal team, which now includes Drew Findling, one of the most prominent criminal defense attorneys in the country, the same lawyer who represented Youngboy through his federal case, has been responding with their own moves. In January 2026, prosecutors dismissed several charges against Melly, including witness tampering, gang-related, and solicitation counts. The defense called these dismissals significant and used them as the foundation of a new push for pre-trial release. In March 2026, Melly's attorneys filed a formal motion for bond, his fourth such attempt in the entire history of this case. The filing cited new evidence and what the defense described as dehumanizing jail conditions, over 2,800 days in custody without a conviction. The math is brutal. Also, in late 2025, the 4th District Court of Appeal upheld the exclusion of certain pre-murder text messages, a ruling that may meaningfully limit what prosecutors can present at the retrial. On March 31, 2026, Melly was called to a status hearing and refused to appear. The judge set a new date, April 30, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. before Judge Martin S. Fine. Arguments on the bond motion and all pending motions. If the judge grants release, Melly could walk out of Broward County Jail on strict conditions: house arrest, monitoring, the full structure. If denied, he waits until January 2027. That April 30th hearing is the backdrop behind Jamie Demons King's post on April 15th. Now, to be clear about what the post actually was and wasn't. It was not an official announcement. It was not a confirmation from the legal team. Outlets like Hot New Hip Hop and Hot 97 covered it accurately as a hint or tease. The energy of a mother who has watched every motion, every delay, every denied bond request, and for the first time in a long time felt like she could say something out loud. The viral version spreading the headline that Melly's mom officially announced his release is not accurate. What she posted was hope, not confirmation. But here's what is real. The conditions for that hope to be legitimate exist in a way they haven't before. Charges were dropped in January. The new legal team represents a serious upgrade in defense strategy. The appeals court ruling benefits the defense. And April 30th represents the first real formal opportunities since the mistrial for a judge to look at how long this man has been held and ask whether continued pretrial detention is justified. The prosecution's case remains serious. The forensic evidence, all shots from inside the vehicle, the stippling, the bagged shell casing, hasn't changed. Bortland's proffer could directly corroborate the physical evidence. The defense's job in January 2027 will be harder than it was in 2023. But the defense also hasn't shown its full hand yet. Findling doesn't walk into a courtroom unprepared. The motive question: why would Melly, in the middle of rapid success, kill two of his closest friends, remains something the prosecution has never fully answered in a way that convinced every juror. In the first trial, 3 jurors held out. That's not nothing. Melly's streaming numbers now exceed 10.7 billion. Murder on My Mind is approaching 1 billion plays on its own. He is by most metrics one of the most streamed incarcerated artists in the history of the music industry. Whether he ever makes music as a free man again depends entirely on what happens in a Broward County courtroom. A mother posted 2 words: "The internet exploded," and the April 30th hearing will tell us whether those words were a real signal or one more heartbreak in a case that has already produced too many of them. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think the judge grants bond on April 30th? Subscribe for the update the moment the decision comes down.